fuel lines are starting to come together. Hey, welcome back. We've got the 1978 F-150 truck in the shop here today, and believe it or not, this thing's actually in pretty good shape. We've had a few little things we needed to do to it, fix the seal out in the back of the axle, do some air conditioning upgrades. We also found that this thing needed a bit of a fuel delivery change. It's routed the wrong way, if you remember correctly. So I'm making up some lines, using some steel braided line and AN fittings to deliver the fuel from the front to the back to the carburetor. What you want to do, keep in mind when you're doing steel braided lines and AN fittings is, first of all, wear some gloves, because when you cut this stuff, the ends fray and you'll get bloody fingers and bloody knuckles, and that's never fun. Also, a little tip before you do any cutting of these lines, make sure you cut them square, otherwise they won't seal properly. Use a little bit of tape around the outside so the ends don't fray. Makes life a whole lot easier when you try and put the fitting on. So this presses in place here, goes in, and then what you want to do, make sure you bottom it out on the back side. There. Spray a little bit of dry film lubricant, silicone lubricant inside. That'll help when you go to put the other side of the fitting in. Also, before you do so, use a little bit of anti-seize on the threads. Keep in mind that these are aluminum fittings. If you don't, once you get them together, you will never get them apart. Life can be a little bit difficult, so take an extra minute, do it the right way the first time. Once you put it together, make sure you tighten the fittings using the proper AN wrenches, because otherwise you'll over tighten them and you'll never get them apart. So I'm going to keep working on our whole fuel line system here, and then we'll be able to plug it into the carburetor, move on to the next thing.
One of the cool things about working on an older cooling system like this is we got some flexibility with some valves. Now let's say hypothetically we needed to take this compressor out of the equation for whatever reason. We were going to service it, it went bad, or we just needed access to some other parts of the engine and we needed it out of the way. Well, you take off these little caps right here, there's one right here and one down here, and you can actually move this valve up and close it on this end, and move this valve up and close it on that end, and that shuts off all your coolant in the lines, and it's right there. So you can take this compressor out, do whatever you've got to do with it, put it back in, and open up the valves, and you're right back where you started. That is a pretty cool deal. Now, older vehicles like this are running what's known as R12. Pretty much all the newer vehicles right now have gone to R134A as far as coolant goes. Now, what that is your R134A is a little bit more environmentally friendly, so everybody's liking that. Now, let's say you're going to actually refill your system, you're going to recharge it. Now, the sticker on the truck says fill it with 2 pounds of R12, but you've made the conversion and you've gone to 134A. So how much do you put in? Well, it calls for 2 pounds of R12, and a good idea is about 80% of whatever you would put in for R12, that's what you put in for R134A. So you put in about 1.6 pounds. Now, you had this little sight right there. You could actually see when you were filling it up back in the day with your R12, you could watch it, and when the bubbles ran out, you knew it was full. But the R134A, you don't have that luxury. You kind of have to guess a little bit, maybe get lucky, or you can use a machine like this and program it to 1.6 pounds, and that's going to make life a lot easier.
Now, this machine's a little bit older, but it's got both of them offered to you, the R12 and the R134A. So we'll just use the 134A. We'll plug in our high and our low side to our cooling system, and we'll let this thing do its work.
Right. Now, we need to take a break because that takes a little bit of time, but when we come back, we'll take a closer look at how it all does its thing.